Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watch One, and thanks for logging on. Today, we're looking at a classic from back in the early 2000s. This is the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Alinghi limited edition, one of 1,000 made 44 millimeters in titanium with a unique platinum bezel and white gold bezel bolts. Now, this one's just a little bit special. First and foremost, Alinghi was unique in that it was a completely land-bound sponsored America's Cup challenger, sponsored by the kind of shadowy Société Nautique de Genève syndicate. The Alinghi team, nevertheless, despite not having a natural port, managed to win the 2003 and 2007 America's Cup, and thus are deserving of a commemorative edition. And it is a little bit of a different kind of America's Cup tribute watch. Frequently, any watch associated with yachting is going to feature some sort of chronograph, either a dedicated regatta timer, some sort of flyback, or a split-second timer. This one's unique in that it features a dual time and a power reserve along with a radial date. So in many ways, it might be said that this example is more of a practical complication. As a yachting watch, I'd have to say that it's definitely a different take, but as a composition on the Royal Oak Offshore canvas, it's actually quite useful and an agreeable daily wearer. Now you can see on the wrist, my wrist is 6 1/3 inches, 16 centimeters. The 44 millimeter case wears nice and light. The Royal Oak Offshore does a good job of spreading its mass. It's got broad shoulders, it's got good stance, so there are no real hot spots or flash points where I just feel like there's too much pressure. Again, cushion cased, as most very large sports watches effectively are. The watch also has large extended lugs that more or less seamlessly taper into the bracelet itself, so again, well distributed mass with the nice counterbalance that comes with a full stainless steel double-deployant clasp. It does have a titanium bracelet and a titanium case, so there's not a whole lot of mass, but what is there is well balanced. It doesn't feel, to use a yachting term, inclined to capsize. Now the watch features a lot of the traditional Royal Oak and Royal Oak Offshore design language. You can see the classic octagonal Royal Oak bezel with the inset white gold bezel bolts. Actually quite a bit of white gold going on here with the hands, the applied indices, the AP marquee at 12 o'clock, and those white gold bezel bolts. You can see on the flank that there is a contrasting finish. The shoulders of the bracelet links, the lugs of the case, as well as the shoulders of the bezel are a high polish pattern, and then there's that famous Royal Oak Offshore expressed bezel gasket between the case tops and the bezel itself. So very mechanical, very tech themed. The Royal Oak Offshore really is a perfect platform on which to create a tribute to modern yacht racing, which, as those who followed it are aware, is highly driven by advanced engineering, computer simulation, and the latest technologies. Those are, in many ways, floating aircraft. They work the same way, they're designed by the same people. And this watch is designed to pay tribute to that kind of technical aesthetic. Continuing from the bezel inboard, there is a rehaut, or a chapter ring, calibrated 0 to 60, that features a stylized black and white calibration pattern, and then it flows from that bezel downward onto the actually smaller grand tapisserie. It's not quite the mega tapisserie in this example, which features a dual time complication, that's your second independent time zone at 6 o'clock, a power reserve at 9 o'clock, and a radial date right about 12:30. There's a lot going on here, but when you take a quick look at it, it's actually quite clearly laid out. All is quite legible, beautifully illuminated at night. This one really does glow like a torch, so very practical in classical sporting watch sense. Also, the use of white indices and white hands against a black background with white printing means that this is a very easy one to read at a glance. So on both levels, ergonomics and aesthetics, this one really succeeds. But at the level of practicality and utility, it has that third triumph to its credit. Now, the watch is stylized to reflect the colors of the Alinghi syndicate, which were white, black, and red, but that also happens to be something of a universal sporting triumvirate or sporting tricolore. What you find is that a lot of automotive, motorsports themed, aviation themed, and even yacht racing themed watches tend to feature that color scheme, but Alinghi really owned it, and the fact that the watch just duplicates that and echoes that is nicely consonant with the sporting spirit of the watch, and yet does pay tribute to the inspiration behind the watch. A good-looking timepiece, whether you're aware of the Alinghi connection or not, and with the only visible Alinghi branding being the syndicate's logo within the radial date subdial at 230. It's really not overt in any way. This reads as an AP first and foremost, and to most people, exclusively. I do want to highlight this bracelet, which is outstanding. Now, you've heard of the finishing standards applied to the Royal Oak and Royal Oak Offshore stainless steel bracelets. You get that same degree of finishing with this titanium example. Now, this watch features the later dual plot Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore lugs. So if for whatever reason you did want to fit the diver strap to this one, or you wanted to put a hornback alligator on there, you're good to go because the interface is the modern one, the contemporary one, not the original launched in 1993. And you can see that all of the manufacturing tolerances, the clever use of contrasting polished, you see brushed on the sides, but polished on the shoulders, once again brushed on the tops as well as the tops of the plots. You see that taper, not just the tapering of the links themselves, but even the tapering of the intermediate links, which you can see shrink as you approach the clasp. And then the clasp is a double deployant with a clamshell retainer, very secure and nicely executed in stainless steel with a brushed finish over all pieces. By executing the clasp itself and the deployant arms in stainless steel, AP ensures just that much more security. And when it closes with this clamshell action on top. The clamshell, I'll show you how that works. Snaps down. Now it's seamless, almost like the Rolex crown clasp. You don't really get a sense that there is a metallic clasp holding this together. It looks like one unbroken ring of metal links. Very low profile, very sleek. Although this is a big, bold, oversized sports watch, it is nevertheless highly refined and elegant. A lot of thought went into making this clasp sleek, low profile, even stealthy, because the show is up here. To a large extent, the show is also inside the case. Now, in Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore tradition, it does feature a base movement based on the famed JLC 889, a very fine, very thin automatic winding caliber. JLC is the watchmaker's watchmaker, really the highest of the high when it comes to engineering, has built base movements for Cartier, Bulgari, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, and Patek Philippe, as well as their own esteemed manufacturer Mark. So the bottom line is that you're off to a flying start with the 889 base. Hacking stop seconds feature, although you don't see continuous seconds, the balance does stop when you pull the crown. The watch also features bidirectional winding, so it doesn't have that awkward unidirectional wobble that you get in some lesser unidirectional movements where you can really feel the unweighted winding direction, and some people find that a little bit disconcerting. Now, AP improves this with the 2895 module on top, and that's what gives you the complications, the second time zone, the power reserve, the radial date. Combine them with a standard of finishing that is distinctly Audemars Piguet, distinctly valet de jeu, and you have a watch that's as substantial inside as it is on the outside. You're going to want to see this 1 of 1000 Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Offshore Alinghi limited edition, 44mm in brushed and polished titanium on our website. It is in outstanding condition. You don't have to be into yachting. You don't have to know anything about America's Cup. With the tricolor of red, white, and black, a gorgeous brushed titanium case, superb ergonomics, and outstanding practical complications, I have a feeling this Audemars Piguet Royal Oak Alinghi limited edition will be the watch you want.